Welcome to another episode of the Sussex Non-League podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at grassroots football across the county. I'm Matt Pohl. On this edition, I'm joined by Sussex sport guru Steve Bone and a very special guest. Steve and I are both delighted to be joined by Chichester City coach Darin Kilpatrick. Dabba, as he is widely known, has been a coach at Chai for the past 5 years, a spell in which they have had a notable FA Cup run in which they reached the second round in 2019 and played at Tranmere live on BT Sport and moved up the non-league pyramid to their present place in the Isthmian Premier Division. Before that, Dabba spent around 2 decades at Bognor as a player and then for many years as manager, assistant manager and coach. During this time, the Rocks rose to the National League South and reached the FA Trophy semi-finals, amongst other achievements. Dabba, thank you very much for joining us. How are you getting on?
I'm absolutely honoured to be on, and thanks very much for having me. I do it. I'm being serious. Absolutely.
Yes, welcome to the podcast. And we must start by asking you about the good start to the season Chai City have had following promotion via the playoffs to the Isthmian Premier. How have you found it so far?
Challenging. I think the first thing to answer that question really is Matt, is that it's strange without Graham. I think that's one of the hardest things that I've definitely had to cope with. I'm not too sure the rest of the staff, Miles and Dan or anyone else, but yeah, I've really struggled without him. So yeah, to have those moments without him has been challenging. He was so supportive. He saw things on the side that not a lot of us saw as well. And he was a master of substitutions. So, which isn't one of my stronger points. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things to say before we even talked about the league. I'd say the absence of Graham G is insane at the football club. However, the players are dealing with it ever so well. And they've adjusted well. And he was the gatekeeper really to the majority of those players, and him and Miles and Danny both brought most of those players to that football club. So yeah, I think that's the first port of call. I think to say how are we finding it, we go week by week. Steve probably knows from dealing with me the past 20 years as well. Nothing's changed with that. It's strong, it's physical, it's powerful. Your team gets redlined every week. Absolutely redlined. You're into the 8s and 9s on the red line. If you had a rev counter, you don't get really much time to breathe. I think they're the hard moments, and then especially when you get like a Saturday and a Tuesday, or even the Saturday and the Monday games, and there's no easy games in this league. So yeah, to say how have we found it, I would just say extremely challenging, exactly what we expected. And we will just keep trying to learn and develop and get better and better. And I know some people say they're old cliches, but they're not. That's what we've got to do, because we've got some young players in that team that have done ever so well to come through and what they've done. So yeah, it's a case of now I feel, because it's so strong and so powerful and so relentless, we have to be doing things slightly different to what other teams do, especially in our style of play. And we believe in what we do, and we'll stay with it because it's the only way we know what to do. And it's got us to where we are. And to get those strong, physical, powerful players in, they cost a lot of money, boys. They're not. And one thing we don't have certainly is a lot of money.
Dabba, at the point where you got promoted last season through the playoffs, start of May, were the players and staff quite daunted at the sudden realisation that you were going up to step 3, or did you embrace it and just take it as a great opportunity to go on growing the club and growing those players as individuals?
That's a great question, Steve. And to answer that honestly would be, I would say I don't really know. I can only go on what my gut says. I think on the run-in was like the club was starting to prepare just in case. So yeah, I don't think anyone's prepared for what we did. If we're really blatantly honest, no one expected that. you know, we could feel it with the momentum with G being ill. We could see it happening, but we actually, whether we or not we were ready for it, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's like, are you ever ready to get married? People say, are you ever ready to have kids? Yes or no, but everyone's different. And I think, there's no good or bad timing for it. I think the club are just adjusting now. And I have to say they're doing it ever so well. And I speak with Miles and Danny Potter regularly on this. And it's slow and steady wins the race, in our opinion. Maybe we're not ready to go into that league as a club. But whatever, Guy and Belly and the rest of the backroom staff are trying to do, they've done it ever so well. And there's still so much more to do. And we've got people at the club that are unsung heroes that are doing things behind the scenes, building work to help us and supplying things for the first team, i.e. ice baths, etc. with Sammy. And it's fantastic what they're trying to do and pull together as a club. If you wanted a yes or no answer, I'd probably say no, they're not ready. However, they are trying their hardest to make it as competitive as we can to be at that level.
Yeah, you've certainly been very competitive so far at this level. I'd be interested to know whether or not you've found the step up in quality between the Isthmian Premier and the Isthmian South East. Has there been that much of a gap between the two? Because from what we've seen from you so far, you've certainly acquitted yourself very well at this early stage of the season.
Two things on that, Matt. It's a long season and it all matters where you are at the end of the season. So that's the most important thing. We're really focused on that. And again, that links back to going week by week. And I'd say the difference, there's a difference. If you make a mistake, if you made out of 5 mistakes, they would punish you on, say, 2. If you make, say, out of 5 mistakes in this, they punish you out of 4. Especially the style of play we did, especially like Slough at the weekend. They caught us coming out, and it's in the back of your net within one pass. So I would say that I think there is a massive difference in fitness, in quality, and that's not to say that the South East. I'm just saying that there is definitely a difference.
You mentioned Slough there. Your FA Cup run did unfortunately come to an end against Slough Town. You've kind of touched upon it there, but how did you find 2 back-to-back games against the top National League South side?
Firstly, on that, I would say 2 great games. And Slough, unbelievably great club from what we've experienced with them the past 2 games. The manager was very was excellent in every way, the way he conducted himself in both games. We built a lovely relationship with them. They were strong, physical, tactical. They were everything about our Conference South team. To go back to back and on a Saturday and a Tuesday was extremely difficult. But again, the recovery process that the club and we've all put in place, thanks to the donation of the ice bath, we've got an incredible team behind the scenes, again, that Danny's put together, and they're the unsung heroes again, patching up the players, getting them ready. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are as a club at the moment. We found that extremely difficult, and the pace of the game. I think the first quarter of an hour was probably the hardest press that we've ever come up against. To be fair, both games they put us in a full Nelson all the time, and we tried to wriggle out, and we did on many occasions, but they caught us on a couple. And I think that's the next thing. And I spoke to a good friend last week about this. That I think our next stage is how to get out of these hard situations where team are pressing us extremely high and hard, and our next movements in front. We know what it looks like. It's just getting the time to train it and getting it right.
Dabba, can we ask you, sorry, I've got the dogs barking in the background, but I wanted to ask you about a couple of your other football hats, if you like, that you've worn over the years. You have been involved for some time with the England colleges set up. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what it involves and what your involvement is now.
Yeah, been involved with the ECFA. I think this is my 12th year, 11th or 12th year. Maybe even a little bit longer as in the background staff, but yeah, as the manager, I think I've been running at the manager for around 6 years, 7 years now. It arrived when I first came to the College of Chichester, and then we had the teams that were playing regularly in the ECFE, the top leagues. The standard was extremely high there. They were the days of Mickey Dimitro and Omar and Tommy Broadbent and a few others. And yeah, there was a good friend of mine now, Simon East, that was the manager then. And I just slowly got involved and volunteered and went in and helped out. And then a couple of positions went on and went for some interviews. Didn't get one, but got another, and got the assistant of the 17s when we ran them. And then built my way up to the 18s manager. So just a steady progression through the system, which has been an incredible experience. Each year we go to Rome. Some of the teams bring out their full under 18 national teams. One year Romania brought their full 18s team out in preparations for a tournament. In fact, in that team we had the likes of Ollie Pearce. I think Ricky was the year after. 2 years after. And they just insane experiences. Some of the teams that go the quality has been brilliant to see and to learn from, and to give the players these experiences is fantastic. From an education point, they go to Rome, they stay in a hotel, they play say 3/4 international matches. For the first time in I think 11 years, we made it to the final last year. It's always been one of my goals and ambitions to win that. However, we fell just short on penalties, which broke all of our hearts. That's football, the highs and lows again. But yeah, we actually got to the final, but fell just short. So yeah, incredible experiences for everyone in the national teams, but they do take a lot of your time. Half terms, you're at trials, then you've got games with the non-league system on a Saturday, then you're in with the national team on a Sunday, and then you're back to work on the Monday, and those games roll on to 15, 16 days non-stop. So they do take their toll on what you're trying to do. But incredible what they've done with the ECFA the past 5 years and how far it's come in developing players. I think the latest one we had was Nunny. Jack Nunn went to a club in Italy. He got taken this year, so it's been brilliant in Serie A.
Do you ever get a day off from football?
Try to, Steve. And you know what? There's something that's not often talked about, I don't think, on any interviews or podcasts, is the barriers that we face, especially how difficult it is for families, because we're away such a long time. Like, it's hard. So, Louise and my family, they are used to it. I get that, but it's still very, very difficult. So I speak on behalf of all the managers and coaches and backroom staff that dedicate a lot of their time to this for very little reward, by the way, very little. And they give a lot of time and effort and action to their football club, and are proud to do it. So I think, yeah, we do, Steve, but very, very rarely. An example of that was these group of players at Chichester at the moment, because we got back in about 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning, back from Slough.
Yeah.
And then you're in at work. We've got people up on roofs. We've got teachers. We've got people on diggers. You name it. And they're in at work at 6:37 the next morning. So we actually, for the first time, I think we gave them Thursday off for the first time. And then there was some that wanted to come in for recovery. And then obviously some turned in. So we went in last night and I wanted the night off. And I said to Miles, I could do with it. 12 players wanted to come in.
Oh, wow.
And when you see that, it inspires me. I'm like, I'm going in to be with them, and I think that epitomises the group of players that we've got, and their attitudes towards wanting to get better.
Also, just wanted to ask you a little bit about your days before Chichester. Obviously, you spent about 20 years, I think it was, at Bognor as a player and coach. Just tell us a little bit. I mean, it's difficult to answer quickly, but a little bit about the Bognor days and about maybe some of the people that have inspired you as a player and more recently as a coach in your sort of football journey so far.
Yeah, all right. The club in itself means a lot to me. I'm a Bognor fan still. You don't spend 20 years at a club and not still have a love or a passion for it. Of course I do. It's been good to me. I've been good to it. I still see people. I still walk in and out of Asda, Sainsbury's, and I live in Worthing Way, and people still stop me and say hello. Especially if I go over to Bognor, you get stopped and say hello, and it's wonderful. It's a great football club. There's only one person really to speak about is Jack, and I know there's Simon and everyone that does so much behind the scenes, but Jack has made the football club what it is. So I still have an incredible relationship with Jack. I don't speak to him as often as I used to, but he's still like a second father to me, and I know he's always there, and if I needed something, he would be there. I always describe him as the character you broke down on the 25 at 4 a.m. and you phone Jack and you say, Jack, I've broken down. He goes, where are you? You say, I'm on the M25. He goes, all right, I'll be there in an hour. I think that's the best way to describe him. And what he's done to the club, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, is fantastic. He's built it. He's built it and he's built it. And so incredible times there. But don't ever forget some extremely low times as well, which needs to be addressed. When Jack was ill, and we basically were playing the college team.
Yeah, I remember
it. Remember that, Steve?
2 relegations in successive years, wasn't it, or 2 in 3 years?
Yeah, I was trying not to remind myself of that, Steve. But thanks for
that. It was nothing to do with you, I'm sure.
You know what? No, but those moments have made me stronger as a person, as a coach, and as a manager. In those times, managing is not stay in your lane. That's not me. Managing is not me. But I had to do it because he was ill and look after his club for him. But they were difficult times. But then Jamie came on board, and then we started to build again. And Jay made some good signings, and then we got the chemistry right between us and the managing and the coaching, and we bought some good players in on not a lot of money, and that atmosphere and that cohesion is the same as what I'm feeling with the Chichester team now.
Right.
Same thing, and I bumped into. I spoke with Sammy Lab a couple of months ago, and we were just saying the same thing. It was us against the world in those days. And by the way, it was a limited wage bill, and what those players did in 10 days for Bognor was incredible. Becky and Tucky and all those boys and guys, it was fantastic. So with only a few lone players as well, there's only a few. We tried to go as local as we can. Good times and bad times. But some really, the semi-final, the trophy, incredible. Always wanted to win the Senior Cup, but never got it. Always fell short on 3 different occasions with them, and the promotions as well, which were lovely moments.
Well, we're now going to take a look at how clubs are getting on across the non-league pyramid, but we will come back to you, Dabba, in a bit. And we're pleased to say that we have clubs flying high in both the National League South and Isthmian Premier. Starting with the National League South, Steve Bone. How are Eastbourne Borough and Worthing getting on?
Yeah, both have had decent starts to the season, actually. Eastbourne Borough second in the league at the moment. I think they've only lost once, and we were talking about them pre-season, weren't we? As probably title contenders. There's a lot of effort and a lot of money, to be blunt, has gone in there. The squad has been built up under Adam Murray, and they've started as they mean to go on, really, in second place. They had a setback last weekend when they were knocked out of the FA Cup, We should just mention, I don't think we're going to come on to the FA Cup otherwise, so we should just say that a few of our teams went out of the FA Cup last weekend, but 3 are still in: Worthing, Hastings and Horsham. We wish well in the next round. Eastbourne Borough are one of the clubs who are out, though. But that brings me nicely to Worthing. They're not, you look at the table and you think, oh, they've been up and down so far, but actually they've played all but one of their games so far away from home because of ongoing work at Woodside Road. They've also got game in hand on pretty much everybody else because there was a midweek when they didn't play, I think again because of the work at the ground. So they're in quite a good position. If they were to win their game in hand, they'd be up around the playoffs. Just brought in Mo Fowle from it was at Crawley briefly, who you would expect to score goals at that level. So I think in different ways, both Worthing and Eastbourne will be happy with the starts they've made and keen to sort of move on from where they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dabba, you mentioned working with Ollie Pearce, and he was scoring goals for fun last season at Worthing. As you've coached him, how proud are you of his goal scoring exploits last year? And is any of that a surprise to you? Because he could not stop scoring, could he?
It's no surprise to me. I promise you that. Absolutely no surprise. His movement, his awareness, his resilience when he misses to go, I'll get another one. It's always been great. And to be fair, when he went to Worthing, Adam really took him to another level as well. And then, we're all massive parts of his journey. But yeah, extremely proud, which is great to see him. I've only sent him the odd text. We're sort of like the past couple of months have just tried to let him get on with it. But no, extremely proud of him. But it doesn't surprise me. I promise you.
I think York City are top of the National League at the moment, aren't they? So Adam, Ollie, and Joe Felix obviously all doing rather well up there, like the Northern Air, clearly.
Yeah, they do. I quite like it in the middle of winter when it's -10 up there.
I'll be wanting to come back then.
Yeah, you don't see the sun again until March or April. Yeah, all fun and games now. But we're going to move on to the Isthmian Premier, which features Dabba's Chichester City, and we have 3 Sussex clubs in the top 10. And who are those early runners and riders from Sussex at step 3, Steve?
Yeah, so Lewis continue to lead the way in the Isthmian Premier. Top of the table with 5 wins and a draw. They did drop their first points last weekend away to Carshalton, but very good start for them, which I don't think many people outside the club expected, and maybe some people inside the club didn't expect either, because it was very much a new start with a new manager, Craig Nelson, a lot of new players, but they've done well. The other 2 Sussex sides in the top 10 are Horsham and who's the other one, Dabba? You don't look at the league table, do you, Dabba, during the season? So Chichester, I can tell you if you didn't know. So Horsham, as we've spoken about on here before, expected to be strong and have a good go at promotion. They're doing okay so far and are still in the cup, as we've said. Chai in mid-table, which is a very good position to be in at this stage. 3 wins, 3 draws so far, I think, off to Wingate tomorrow. The 2 surprises really are that Hastings and Bognor are both struggling a little bit at the moment. I mean, again, we should say it's early days. There's plenty of time for them to move up, and I think both of them will. Bognor have struggled in the league and cup, actually, because they had a bad 4-0 defeat at home to Margate last week in the cup. Hastings started well with a couple of wins, haven't won in the league since, but we'll be looking to come back. And when we move on to our games of the weekend at the end of the podcast, we'll be mentioning two of those sides in that division, or I will be anyway. Whitehawk are the other team from Sussex in the bottom half. They're a little bit above Hastings and Bognor, actually. So work to do for those, but plenty of time to do it. So there won't be too many alarm bells ringing just yet, I don't think.
I think, Steve. Sorry, Matt. I think we need to be clear to. And I'm not sticking up for Bognor, but to lose 6 of your first team players that would regularly start in your team, to lose 2 of your regular starters would cripple any team. And what everybody forgets is that it's not that you just lose those players, it's that you end try and put sort of like square pegs in round holes, because you're moving other players around out of their position to cover other positions. So I think sometimes I've got to be careful how I say it, but the uneducated eye or the local fan, which I do appreciate, they get frustrated. In half hard to lose 2 of your players, let alone 5s and 6s of them. So
and one of those players they've lost is Craig Robson, who is probably the first on the team sheet if he's fit. So,
for my opinion, the best centre in the whole league, Steve. My opinion.
And he's out, could be out for the season, so that's a huge blow for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's only early days as well, isn't it? Nothing's won in September, is it? Meanwhile, in the Isthmian South East, we have 7 sides flying the flag for Sussex. But who leads the way for our county in this division, Steve? And how have New Boys, Eastbourne Town and Stenning Town both acquitted themselves so far at this level?
Yeah, the Isthmian South East is one that is very hard to assess at this stage because they've had such a stop-start beginning to the season in terms of league games played. There are some teams in that division who have played sort of 6 or 7 games, and there are quite a few that have only played 3, even though we're about 6 weeks into the season. Lancing, for example, they're on the bottom, but they've only played 3 games, so it seems harsh to sort of judge them just yet. Burgess Hill are the ones to watch from Sussex in that division. I think we said it. They were another team that we talked about in pre-season as having a good chance. They've signed some good players. They've signed some Step 3 players to play in Step 4. They've signed people like Ben Pope and Hamish Morrison. And they're starting to put some results together now. A good 3-2 win against Littlehampton in midweek. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me to see them doing okay. Stenning and Eastbourne, the 2 sides that came up from the SCFL Premier last year, they've both picked up their first wins, which I think is important. You don't want to go too long before getting your first win. They've had defeats as well. Again, it's very early days. I think if we talk again here in a month's time, we'll have a much better idea of how those 2 are going to do. But they can take a lot of heart from how other clubs from Sussex have gone up from SCFL Premier into the Isthmian South East. Lancing, Littlehampton, Broadbridge Heath. They've all gone up, and people have wondered, is that going to be a big step for them? And it is a big step. And they've survived. And of course, before those, 2019, Chichester City went up into Isthmian South East, which I think, Dabba, was pretty much when you went there. And Chichester have always, all the time they were in that division, really held their own and never looked like going back down. So there's some inspiration from other clubs that the new boys can take up there.
Absolutely. And Dabba, obviously, Chichester were in the Isthmian South East last season. How difficult is it to get out of that division? I remember last season, Ramsgate were absolutely running away with it, weren't they? And then they came unstuck in the semis, didn't they?
Extremely difficult. Absolutely. It's, we went there on a mid-block and held it well and counter-attacked and Little Mo got a great goal. But if we were to play Ramsgate 10 times, I'm not too sure how many times we'd have beaten them that year. In a one-off game, we rode a little bit of luck, but we also created a little bit. We played some good football at times, but yeah, it's tough to get out of that league because there's 2 or 3 clubs financially backing the clubs there, and that's what makes it really hard.
Absolutely. And in the division below, in the SCFL Premier, 2 sides remain unbeaten, and quite remarkably, Steve, both sides are near neighbours. Who leads the way in this division, and who occupies the lower half of the table?
That's right, and without blowing our own trumpets too much, the 2 teams at the top are 2 that we did talk about as being contenders this season, Sussex and Haywards Heath. Both unbeaten so far. Sussex are top by 1 point from Haywards Heath. They have played a game more than Heath. But yeah, both did okay last season. Sussex actually finished just above Haywards Heath last season. I think those 2 were 5th and 6th last year. We all thought they'd have a good go this year, and that's how it's working out so far. Crawley Down as well. Crawley Down Gatwick are up there. They've had a couple of defeats, but they're in 3rd place and not too far behind. The other end of the table, again, teams have only played, we're talking about teams who have played 8 games and actually aren't that many points behind sort of mid-table, really. But Little Common are down there, Fundinians are down there, Shoreham and Eastbourne United are down there. You certainly wouldn't expect Eastbourne United to stick around down there for much longer. They're showing signs of recovery. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Again, we'll know, a lot more about who's going to prosper and who's going to struggle, in a few weeks, in another month or so, I think.
Absolutely. It's only September, isn't it? And Dabba, what are your memories of Chichester's time in the SCFL Premier?
Very little, if I'm honest. I remember playing against them as a player, and it was always, gum shield in and tin hat on, and let's go to battle. That's what it's like. I think the club's evolved quite a bit since then. But yeah, it was always a hard place to go to. Never used to play in there in the old days.
I'm sure clubs still feel the same these days, Dabba. Don't you worry about that. And finally, in the SCFL Division 1, we also have one unbeaten team, but they aren't top of the league, are they, Steve? Who leads the way at this early stage?
You are correct. Seaford Town are still top at the moment. Seaford have lost one game. They've won 7, drawn 1, lost 1 so far. They were the team who lost to Wick in the playoffs at the end of last season. So we thought they would do quite well, and so it's proving so far. Forest Row are the only unbeaten team in that league. 5 wins, 3 draws from their 8, so they're not too far behind. They're in 3rd. And Billingshurst have had a very good start to the season, won 6 of their 8 games so far. So they're in 2nd. Those 3, they've got a little 2-point gap between. You've then got a big group of teams, right down to 10th who are pretty close to them. Other end of things, Montpellier Villa yet to get off the mark points wise. They'll be looking for a win soon to change that. You've then got Copthorne, who I think we might hear something about later. Alfold, Oakwood and Selsey down there. Again, Selsey are another team you wouldn't expect to be down there. I followed them quite closely for a while, and I'm sure they'll be top half before too long. But early days, and I think quite a few of those sides are involved in the FA Vars this weekend, so good luck to any of them who are as well.
Absolutely. And as customary for our non-league podcast, Steve and I will each pick our game of the week, where we select a fixture involving a Sussex club that we think you should keep an eye out for. Steve, I think you've already kind of alluded to it, but which game have you gone for this week?
I'm going to go for the big Sussex derby in the Isthmian Premier Division tomorrow. Lewis, I'd have to think who's at home, but it is Lewis at home to Hastings tomorrow. So it's first against 16th, but I think it'll be a lot closer than the league positions would suggest. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Hastings get something down there. I think it'd be a good feisty game between the neighbours. Few in either camp that have played for the other camp, and Danny Blore will be looking forward to going head to head with Craig Nelson down there.
Absolutely, it should be a great game. And I've gone for Copthorne v Sutton Athletics, or in the FA Vars second qualifying round. It is the first FA Vars match in Copthorne's history, so all the best to them. I think they're playing on Saturday at Horsham's ground, so best of luck to Copthorne. And
I could have had about 30 guesses at which game of the week you would go for, and I would not have gone for Copthorne.
I just hope we haven't cursed them, Steve. I just hope we're not having next podcast we're talking about a Sutton Athletics 7-0 win over Copthorne or something like that.
Your fault.
It will be. I will have cursed them like I appear to have cursed AFC Upfield Town with my prediction in SFL Division 1, but never mind. And Dabba, finally for you, just in case people don't know, what are Chichester City up to this week?
We're away at Wingate. Like I say, just take week by week. We're away at Wingate, so just trying to get our head around the analysis stuff last night and tonight. Yeah, it's always a good surface up there, so just another red lines team ready for tomorrow, getting them ready. It's just going to be another day in the Isthmian Premier for us that's extremely difficult.
Absolutely. And best of luck, Dabba, and best of luck for the rest of the season tour at Chichester City. And don't forget, sussexworld.co.uk/sport and our newspapers are the best place to get your Sussex Non-League coverage. Thank you both very much for joining us today. Thank you very much, Dabba, and thank you for listening and or watching. We will see you when we see you.
Matt, could I just before we leave, could I just say thank you to all the people that do things behind the scenes at the football club. Like I said earlier, unsung heroes, the support mechanisms we've got, like with our coaching, Dean Wilkins has been outstanding for us, helping us and always at the end of the phone, and all the people that are doing all the building and everything. We really appreciate what they do, and we're extremely lucky to have those support mechanisms, and we thank them and with a lot of love.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Dabba, and thank you very much, Steve. We'll see you all when we see you. Cheers, Dabba. Thank you very much.
Thank you.